Hello fellows, let's discover our topic for today. Concept 3. Light and sight. Hunting with night vision. How humans and animals can see things. The eye is the organ of sight in both animals and humans. And light affects sight in humans and animals. Humans need light in low light places to see clearly. As you can see in this video, at first it was completely dark, so you cannot see anything until it comes closer, so you can recognize it's a hand. Some animals can see better than humans in the dark, such as fishing cat and tarsier monkey. Humans can see clearly in an area with low light. Of course, it's wrong. Presence of light is important for humans to see their surroundings. Yes, of course. Cats can see clearly in an area with low light. Yes. Night vision in humans. Human eyes need light to see well. Without light, humans would need a device known as, of course some of you know this device while playing some games. The structure of eyes of some animals helps them see in the dark, such as the fishing cat. Night vision in animals. The fishing cat is a wild cat that hunts for food at night. The fishing cat's eyes seem to glow in the dark. Why? Because it has a mirror-like membrane on the back of its eyes. When the light enters the fishing cat's eyes, it bounces off this membrane, allowing the eye to collect more light. The structural adaptation of cat eyes that is found in all cats allows them to have excellent night vision to hunt in the dark. So let's talk about light. First, sources of light. It is something that gives off or emits its own light. For example, the sun. The sun emits light, its own light. Also electric lamps, candles, flashlight, and fire. Sources of light emits its own light. Note, there are other objects that don't emit their own light, but they reflect the light falling on them, so they are not considered as sources of light, such as the moon. The moon is bright. We can see the moon is bright at night, but it's not a source of light. It doesn't emit this light. It only reflects the sunlight. So it's not a source of light. We don't consider it as a source of light. Also the mirror, the same. It doesn't emit light. It only reflects the light falling on its surface. So how do we see? When the source of light emits light rays that fall on objects, the light rays bounce off these objects to our eyes to see them. So how can we define light? Light is a visible form of energy. So remember that light is energy that travels in the form of waves. Note, in complete darkness, we can't see anything because without light bouncing off the objects into our eyes, everything will look black. Hunting in the dark. The ability of humans and nocturnal animals to see in the dark. First, humans have difficulty seeing in the dark. while nocturnal animals are better able to see because nocturnal animals have bigger eyes than humans. Also, the pupils of eyes of nocturnal animals usually open wider than the pupils of human eyes, and the pupil is the dark spot, the black spot inside the eye. So it allows more light enter their eyes. Note, nocturnal animals can see in the weakest light levels, but in complete darkness they depend on other senses, such as hearing, smell, and touch, that help them move in the dark and avoid predators. So remember that in complete darkness, the nocturnal animals cannot see as well. They need at least a low level of light to see. So give reason. The pupils of cat eyes open wider than the pupils of human eyes. Why? Of course, to allow more light enter the cat eyes to see well in low light. Now observe the pupil of this cat while it's open wider to collect more light, so it helps it to see. Tarsier monkey. It's a tiny primate, a tiny monkey. It's a mammal that feeds on insects, small lizards, or birds. Its body is about 10 centimeters long, not including its tail. So imagine that the tarsier monkey is the length of a small ruler. Its habitat is Southeast Asia. The structural adaptation here in the tarsier monkey is like ours in some structural adaptations, such as its eyes. The tarsier has huge eyes, like ours, to gather and reflect any light available to give them a picture of its surroundings. Tarsier can't move its big eyes in their sockets, like ours. The tarsier head can turn its head 180 degrees, just like ours, to focus on distant or near objects at night, since tarsier cannot move its big eyes in their socket. So let's check your understanding, true or false. Number 1. The boy can see the different objects in the room because his eye sends the light and his brain tells him what he is seeing.
Yes.
True. Number 2. If light is turned off, the boy will see the different objects in the room?
No.
Of course not. Special eye structures. Some animals, such as deer, horses, cats, and dogs, have a feature that relates to the sense of sight called the tapetum lucidum. This is the mirror-like membrane that found in the back of the eye. So it's a tiny layer at the back of some animal's eye that reflects light as this layer in fish. Note, tapetum lucidum is a Latin term which means tapestry of light. So this is the eye and this is the light falling on this membrane, the mirror-like membrane, and then it reflects back to allow more light to see in the dark, in the low level of light. So when light enters the eyes of such animals and falls on the tapetum lucidum layer, it bounces off like a mirror. The light that the eyes do not detect at first passes through the tapetum lucidum and gets bounced back for second time. That makes the eye of such animals get more amount of light at night time. Note, the reflection of light for from the tapetum lucidum or the mirror-like membrane causes the glow of the cat's eyes when light shines on them in the dark, just like in this video. Reflection. Now we will do an experiment that shows how light interacts with different types of materials. If you turn on the flashlight and direct it towards each of the previous objects that are made of different materials, first, materials are shiny and smooth, such as mirrors and metal. They reflect a large amount of light, while on a rough materials such as plastic, wood, cloth, and paper, it reflects a small amount of light. So the conclusion: shiny and smooth materials reflect light better than rough materials. Light strikes matter. In this activity, we will study what happens to light when it hits different types of matter. Light, as we said before, it's a form of energy that travels in straight lines in the form of waves. When traveling light hits an object, some of the light energy is absorbed, and some of the light energy reflects or bounces off the object surface, and some of the light energy may go through the object. Objects can be classified into groups, which are opaque and transparent. So what does it mean, opaque objects? They are objects that don't allow light to pass through, like rocks, wood, metals, human body, a book. So things cannot be seen through them. So if you put a book in front of you and you put a glass behind it, you cannot see the glass behind the book because it's an opaque object. Transparent objects. They are objects that allow light to pass through, so they are totally opposite, like air, water, glass, windows, and lenses. It means if you are standing in front of a window, a glass window, and there is someone playing outside, you can see the one he is playing outside through the window. Why? Because transparent allow light to pass through it, so things can be seen through them. Why do you see your shadow? Opaque objects, including your body, form shadows because all the light that hits opaque objects either bounces off or is absorbed, so no light passes through your body. We just said that opaque objects don't allow light to pass through. So if the light is not going to pass through the opaque body or the opaque object, so what's gonna happen? It will form a shadow. Like when you are standing in the sun, you can see your shadow on the road. Also, if there is a ball and there is a source of light, a flashlight, you can detect the shadow, you can see the shadow on the wall. So why we see the shadow? It's because the light cannot travel through the opaque body or the opaque object. That's why you will find a black dark shadow taking the shape of the object. The reflected light depends on the smoothness of the surface, where we have two types of surfaces: smooth surface and rough surface. The smooth surface um, is such as a mirror. The light rays will reflect in one direction with the same angle at which they strike or hit the object originally. So as shown in the figure below, all light rays are bouncing back with the same angle in the same direction. So what about the rough surface? Rough surfaces, such as painted surface, the light rays will scatter or diffuse in different directions. So also, as shown in the picture below, the light rays will hit the surface, but it will reflect in many directions, and we call it scatter or diffuse in different directions with many angles. How does light striking matter make it possible for humans and animals to see? When light rays strike or fall on an object, light reflects or bounces off this object. The reflected light travels in a straight line into the eyes. Special nerves in the eye send messages to the brain, and the brain interprets or translates or processes the messages as an image of this object. So that's what we studied before in the nervous system. Again, the light will fall on the object, and then it bounces to the eye, and then the eye sends a message to the brain, and the brain translates or processes this information and send a message back to the body.